Troutman for Cork'd.com. I'm sitting here with two really important guys within South America's emerging wine industry. I'm going to give you a chance to introduce the two of them to you because I think their stories are one that definitely need to be told. Dan, why don't we start with you if you don't mind?
I'm Dan Kravitz. My company's Handpicked Selections. This is my 26th year in business. After doing basically all French wine for over 20 years, 5 years ago, I started bringing in wines from Argentina, and I'm really happy I did.
Awesome. And as our interpreter today, if you wouldn't mind introducing the gentleman to your left-hand side.
To my left is Alfredo Roca, who owns Bodegas Alfredo Roca. It is a medium-sized estate bottler of a wide variety of wines in the southern district of Mendoza around the city of San Rafael, which is the appellation for the wines from that part of the world. And he has been running this estate for 40 years and has taken it from selling grapes to negociants to estate bottling almost 100,000 cases of wine.
Awesome. So obviously in the 40 years that Alfredo has run Alfredo Roca, it's changed dramatically, like you said. How did the two of you hook up? How does your relationship start? And take us through that history a little bit.
I was in a restaurant in the city of Mendoza, and it's one where you pick a bottle of wine out of a room instead of being handed a list. They had one Pinot Noir. As a wine geek, I love Pinot Noir. It was Alfredo's. I fell in love with the wine, and I called him and asked him if he was selling in the U.S., and he said no. I said, would you like to? And he said yes.
Wow.
And I went to visit him even though he was 170 miles out of the way.
So you literally just were in a wine cellar, picked a wine, fell in love with it, and a short time later you're importing it into the United States.
Yes.
It's a very cool story, if I do say so. Let's talk a little bit about your history with South American wine. I know it goes back pretty deep, and walk us through a little bit how you got involved with the wine scene there.
Well, I actually have cousins in Buenos Aires who used to live in Mendoza. They're not in the wine business. I've always really enjoyed the wines. I visited for the first time way back in '73 when I took a motorcycle trip through. I went back in '94. It was my first effort to import the wines after I'd only been in business about less than 10 years. But the Argentine peso was linked to the dollar, and that made the prices just much too high. After the economic trouble and the break of the link to the peso and the dollar, when it became 3 or 4 pesos to a dollar, I went back and just found all the good, reasonably priced wines I could, and it's really taken off. It's been very satisfying.
Awesome. Like you described there, the economics behind the industry are obviously profitable, and yet they still remain hugely underpriced within the U.S. market when compared to so many other regions. You look to Napa Valley where it's hard to find a bottle under $40, and yet you find wines from South America that are a quarter of the price that deliver equally on quality. One grape, though, that you mentioned, Pinot Noir, that people really aren't familiar with from Argentina. They're hung up on Malbec and, to a lesser extent, Torrontés. Let's talk about Pinot Noir and some of the regions that are emerging in Argentina that can grow the grape.
Within Mendoza, 2 of the 5 districts are suitable. Valley d'Uco is kind of a misnomer because even though it is a valley, they're also the highest altitude vineyards in Mendoza, and therefore cooler. The famous consultant Michel Roland set up a huge project there with thousands of acres of vines. The flagship wine is his Clos de los Siete, which is a Malbec and Bordeaux varietal blend, but the higher reaches are planted with Pinot Noir, and those are being sold under the names of the various 7 owners. That's what Clos de los Siete means. Further south, in Alfredo's district, which is San Rafael, it's 150 miles from the other 4 Mendoza districts, and even though it's not quite as high in altitude, it's that much further from the equator, and the Andes are lower, and there's a couple of wind gaps, so it's every bit as cool as Valley d'Uco. The third part of Argentina, a real wild card for Pinot Noir, is Patagonia, And this is, you know, another couple of 100 miles south, even of where Alfredo is, more than a couple of hundred, I think about 300 miles. And it is very definitely cool climate, and there's some very good, very interesting Pinot Noirs coming out of there, including the bodega named Chacras, which has Pinots in the market for 30 to 150 bucks. I don't think they're making a lot or expecting to sell a lot, but it's a very cool project.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like a niche project. Let's talk about Alfredo Roca, and if you don't mind
You
translating
ask,
for us.
I translate for him.
Beautiful.
He answers, I translate for you.
Beautiful. Outside of Pinot Noir, Alfredo, what are some of the other grapes that you're working with, and walk us through kind of your winemaking philosophy or your mentality?
Además, el Pinot Noir, ¿qué están las otras uvas más importantes a la bodega? ¿Y qué es tu filosofía de crecer viñedos, hacer vino y gerer bodega?
Sí, Alfredo Roca es una familia que está radicada en San Rafael desde 1912.
The family of Roca has been in San Rafael since 1912. I think there's going to be a big party in 2 years.
Dedicado siempre a la vitivinicultura.
Always dedicated to agriculture and specifically grape growing.
Hoy ya la cuarta generación, hay un hijo que es Alejandro, licenciado en enología.
This is the fourth generation. Soon Alfredo will pass over to his son Alejandro, who has degrees in both enology and viticulture.
Además es quien maneja todo lo que es comercio exterior, y realmente el objetivo de nuestra empresa es seguir trabajando siempre fundamentalmente en lo que es la calidad.
The objective of the winery is to continue working always very fundamentally for quality.
Nosotros poseemos 114 hectáreas de viñedos,
They have about 300 acres of vines,
todos de alta calidad enológica,
all of high quality.
y con respecto a las variedades tenemos que decir que bueno, el emblema argentino es Malbec.
In terms of varietals, the emblem of Argentina is Malbec, which is they have the biggest acreage.
Nosotros estamos muy abocados también a la producción de Pinot Noir, por cuanto el terroir es óptimo para esta variedad.
They're also very dedicated to Pinot Noir because they think their terroir is optimal for that varietal.
También estamos desarrollando una variedad que es muy antigua en San Rafael, que es Bonarda.
They're also developing a varietal that's very old in San Rafael, first planted a long time ago, which is Bonarda.
Hemos presentado en esta hermosa degustación de vinos promocionado por Regal, y hemos traído también nuestro Malbec, nuestro Malbec, nuestro Pinot Noir, Cabernet, toda una serie de variedades, pero
In this tasting, we brought, besides Pinot Noir and Malbec, Bonarda, Cabernet, and white wines.
y fundamentalmente hemos encontrado en los degustadores una gran aceptación por Bonarda.
And in the tasting today, among the many people who came through, we found great acceptance of the Bonarda.
También es característica de nuestra bodega de hacer vinos agradables y elegantes.
The characteristic of our bodega is to make wines that are agreeable and elegant.
Y con respecto a futuro de Roca como empresa productora de vinos, decimos que somos muy apasionados de nuestro trabajo.
In respect to the future, we are very passionate for our work.
Y consideramos que el futuro vitivinícola de Roca es muy positivo, muy promisorio y excelente.
We think the future for our wine growing is very promising. We're very optimistic that we can make excellent wines.
So, Alfredo, one thing that you mentioned is that you're coming up on just shy of 100 years of winemaking.
Dice que está casi a 100 años después de la familia establece los viñedos.
And in recent years, of course, the industry has seen huge changes. What has been the most significant change at your bodega?
En los años recientes hay cambios enormes en la industria de viñedos de Argentina. ¿Qué es el cambio lo más grande a Roca?
Sí, en forma muy especial tengo que mencionar que el cambio más importante es, no sería cambio, sino el ingreso de la nueva generación, que son mis hijos, a la empresa.
The most important change is not really a change, just a continuation of his son coming in, taking his degrees in viticulture and enology, and being ready to continue.
Quienes son los que incorporaron toda la tecnología que tiene hoy la vitivinicultura. Ellos han incorporado, por supuesto, junto a los padres, la nueva tecnología, todo el nuevo proceso de la vitivinicultura.
The new generation has brought in more up-to-date technology and new processes. He didn't mention it, but I will because I saw the change 3 years ago and it was dramatic. They brought in a chilling tunnel for the grapes, which was, considering the size of the winery and the price of the wines, a huge investment. And the pristine freshness and liveliness of the wines, which was always there, got better and became easier.
Very exciting. Two big changes we always like to see. One, keeping the name in the family, and two, constant improvement in the winemaking. So, both Dan, Alfredo, thank you so much for joining us. It's always great to get both an importer's perspective and, of course, a viticulturist's impression. So, thank you both.
John, thank you very much
Absolutely.
for meeting with us.
Yes.
Muchas gracias.
Cheers.
He said, thank you very much.